as soon as your liver stops processing the alcohol, like it's out, that 6 meals or however much you've had, bang, just gets processed all at once. So I've seen people who've done that and then not had any drugs or GHB for like 6-7 hours, and they're just chill, and then all of a sudden, bang, they're flopping over, they're falling over.
Hello, is this thing on? Anyways, hey guys, what's up? Welcome to another episode of Your Mate Tom podcast. And just before we get into it, because I know a lot of you guys complain that my intros are way too long, and like I get it, maybe they are too long, and you know, it's something that I'm working on. But if you can bring yourself to like go out of your way and type a comment to complain about someone's intro, then you could use that same hand, put it on your mouse, move the cursor along, and go skip across. Fucking mind blowing. Okay, no, I'm just being a dick now, but I was gonna be a bigger dick and make this whole video like a 1 hour long intro because it would just be funny. But anyways, if you do enjoy this podcast and want to support the show, then I invite you guys to check out Patreon. Even if you want to donate as little as like $1 or $2 a month, it will give opportunity for me to actually go out of my way and travel and meet with people that you want me to collaborate with, and will also support the more higher production quality videos. But apart from that, you actually get some pretty cool perks like a monthly Q&A Patreon video. We also got a private Discord server, so if you want to hang out with the community and with myself, then check it out. And like another way to support the show is by getting some merch, so feel free to check out our merch. So I'm sure there's some designs that you would like. Apart from that, we don't really have any sponsors at the moment, so that's it. You know, just check out the links in the show notes below and choose whatever way you want to support the show. Or not, it's whatever, it's just an invitation. Relax, guys. Anyways, to my next guest, Ryan Hassan. I've actually had this guy on before, over 2 years ago now, on this channel, on my unofficial podcast. And it was actually one of my very favorite conversations that I've had, because Ryan is such a knowledgeable dude who has a lot of wisdom and experience, especially when it comes to drug addiction and overcoming mental health issues. And just, man, trust me guys, if you enjoy my videos and what I talk about, then you're gonna love this conversation. There's a lot of gold nuggets of wisdom. In this podcast, me and Ryan talked about his GHB and crystal meth addiction, mental health. We talked about practical ways of dealing with emotions, spiritual bypassing, existentialism, and all of the good stuff that you guys probably follow me for, or at least some of you. So again, I really invite you guys to watch this podcast until the end. I'm sure you're going to extract some value, and if not, at least some entertainment. So yeah, enjoy. Peace out. Oh, and before I forget, just letting you guys know that the mics used in this podcast was not mine. It was actually Ryan. So if you do notice an increase in audio quality, this would be why. So please don't expect the audio to be this good the next podcast. I'm sorry, I can't afford that good of a mic quite yet. I'm working on it. If you guys feel generous and want to donate a good mic, then send me an email, feel free. But apart from that, yeah, that's it. Welcome to another episode of the Your Mate Tom podcast. I've actually had Ryan on before, which is a funny story, when it was like kind of like an unofficial podcast. So I don't want to like repeat everything that we went down, but just for those listening at home who haven't heard of you, maybe give like and I hate asking this question, but kind of in a nutshell, what is your story with creating this Melbourne Centre of Healing? And
the rundown version.
Yeah, pretty much.
I looked up like literally just before you came in. I'm like, fuck, how long ago was that? It was like nearly 2 years. It was June 2016.
Because you started it like just after, no, like not even that long ago before.
Yeah. No, we started in start of March or end of Feb. So it was only a couple of months into it that we spoke.
Yeah. Well,
that's crazy.
And you've upgraded the whole place, it looks like.
I've had some work done. So I run a business called the Melbourne Centre of Healing. We are an all-natural outpatient clinic for addictions and mental health. I used to be a tradesman, funnily enough. So why does a tradesman decide to run a bloody mental health and addiction clinic? It's because I went through my own addiction. I was pretty deep into an ice and GHB addiction a couple of years ago now, or a few years ago now, where I was using every day. I was dealing to support my habit. I was overdosing on GHB multiple times a week.
So did you use GHB with meth?
Yeah.
All the time?
Absolutely.
And the way he's like, of course, mate, no other way.
Yeah, well, it's because you got one's obviously an extreme stimulant.
Yeah.
One's a depressant.
Yeah.
And it's kind of weird. Like a lot of the bad things about taking a lot of meth or ice is the paranoia, the anxiety, all that kind of jazz. So the GHB levels it out in a weird way. But it's not a great cocktail at all, honestly. But yeah, I'd say I was probably more addicted to GHB than I was meth.
Really?
Because
why do you say that?
Because when you would get low on the drug, so if we started getting low on ice or meth, then I'd be like, oh yeah, we'll have to get some more and that kind of thing. But I wouldn't worry. If I was down to like my last 5 or 6 mils, which is like 2 or 3 doses of GHB, I'd start freaking out. And I'm like, fuck, what am I doing? I've got to get more. And I'll be messaging and I would start to panic. So that's why I believe I was more addicted to the GHB.
And it's very potent, isn't it, GHB?
It's super dangerous. There's not enough about it, not enough information out there in Melbourne or anywhere in Australia, but it's actually more of an issue than Melbourne than in the other states.
So I'm a bit ignorant on GHB. Like, what exactly is it?
So it's called GHB because the chemical name for it's gamma hydroxybutyrate.
Yeah.
It is a depressant. It's processed by the liver, so it works similar to alcohol. This is why there's 2 reasons why it's so dangerous.
Okay.
Number one, it's such a small dose. So it's normally around 2 mils, so 2 milliliters.
Whoa.
You have in like a syringe, not a needle syringe, but one you squirt into your mouth. It tastes like what I imagine battery acid would taste like. Like it's fucking horrible. You have to wash it down with something. So, you can go from an effective dose at 2 mils. If 3.5 mils, you can be overdosing.
Whoa,
okay, so
really?
So if people aren't measuring correctly, or they have, because normally it takes about 2 hours for your liver to process it and be out of your system. So if you have it after an hour, then you can still blow out. It's called when you overdose. So it's such a fine margin for error is why it gets so dangerous. Yeah.
And why do people use it? What is the feeling that it gives you that no other drug
does? It's kind of like a cross between maybe being drunk and MDMA.
Okay.
It's a really loose feeling. Like every inhibition comes down. You do not give a fuck about anything. It's quite messy. If you see someone on it and they're quite loose, you're like, holy shit, that's not good. But it obviously feels good to that person. Because obviously all of that anxiety, even the depression, all this stuff that goes on in our mind just sort of can melt away because your body's literally slowing down. So it's not good. That's why you can run into problems because your heart can actually slow down too much. So the dose is very critical, but also taking it with alcohol. Yeah. And this is what people don't know about, which is crazy because this is how I crashed my car on the freeway because I overdosed on this stuff. Because what happens...
Holy shit.
If you take alcohol and someone's like, yeah, let's fucking do some juice, some GHB, right? Because it's processed by the liver as well as alcohol, and alcohol sort of takes preference by the liver of processing it. So if I've got alcohol in my system that my liver's dealing with and then I take GHB, I won't feel it because my liver's already processing the alcohol and the GHB will just sit there. So people are like, oh, I had some GHB, I don't feel anything. Let me have some more. Bang, they have some more. I still don't feel shit. Oh, I'll try one more. Bang. As soon as your liver stops processing the alcohol, like it's out, that 6 mils or however much you've had, bang, just gets processed all at once. So I've seen people who've done that and then not had any drugs or GHB for like 6-7 hours and they're just chill and then all of a sudden, bang, they're flopping over, they're falling over. And I'm like, yeah, you can see it.
It can kind of happen with like snorting cocaine or something like that. Like you snort, but it's not quite... I don't know, it gets like blocked in your nose and then you just have that one line and then boom, it all hits you. Yeah.
That's so crazy. It's a super dangerous drug and there's really not enough out there in regards to kind of harm minimization and that. One of the things I had to do, because like I got arrested a couple of times and I was on a corrections order.
What'd you get arrested for?
Trafficking, possession, commercial trafficking, theft of a motor vehicle, proceeds of crime.
This is when I tell people it's actually pretty hard to get locked up in Melbourne.
Well, I got a lot of that stuff dropped. I still got my actual convictions, trafficking and possession. But the thing is, if I had get arrested today with the amount I had back then, because they have changed the laws around GHB a lot.
Like more strict?
Yes,
Yeah,
I would 100% be in jail.
Oh, really?
Because I got picked up with about 2 liters on me, and I think now I was speaking to someone recently. I think I think
that's like heaps, right?
I think I think 100 mil or more is now a commercial quantity. Yeah.
Whoa.
So back then it was 2 liters, so I was like on the cusp, and that sort of helped. But yeah, if it was those laws now back then, like I'd 100% be locked up.
Damn.
So yeah, so
Well, it's good that you're not and you're here.
I'm happy that I'm not.
I hope so.
I'm too pretty for jail. I spent 2 nights in there in remand. One of the times I got arrested before I got bailed, and that was enough for me.
Yeah.
That was enough for me.
Did you see some like creepy, scary dudes, or was it just the whole vibe?
Just the whole vibe. I mean, the way you're treated in there. One of the days when we were waiting for like bail hearing, you just kept in the one cell, which is all concrete. It's tiny. There's 6 other dudes in there all waiting. You haven't got any food. There's nowhere comfortable to sit. There's a toilet in the corner. And, one guy was in there telling us how he'd stabbed someone in the temple with a pair of scissors. And then and then what happened, they come in and they finally gave us these meals, and they passed them through the little the latch in the door. And there's 6 of us, 6 or 7. Anyway, say there was 6 of us in there. They passed through 5, and everyone's got one except the scissors dude. And he's like, "Where the fuck is my meal?" And I'm like, "Dude, have mine. I'm happy to wait."
Don't stab me in the temple, please.
just after he told that story too, I'm like, "Dude, have mine. I'll wait. I'm good.
That's pretty crazy. Stabbing someone in the temple with scissors. Okay.
Yeah, interesting. So that was an experience. After I'd been through all that kind of stuff, the worst period for me was about 6 months, where I shut out my friends, my family, everyone close to me, because so much guilt and shame in my system.
That was after that experience.
No, this was during that. So
Okay, right.
During that. So after I had been arrested the second time, I realised this life isn't sustainable. I need to get help. I'm going to end up in jail or dead. Like, when you go deep into that scene, that's sort of what you got to do. You got to try and sort your shit out, or you're going to end up in jail or dead.
Yeah, and seeing the underworld is it's not pretty, is it?
Yeah. Look, it's not. It's not. Everyone's in pain. Yeah, everyone
100%.
is in pain and trying to deal with that pain the best they can. Yeah, and it's weird because a lot of people will hurt each other. It's not nice, but at the same time, there's this weird community about it where you know that you're all in pain. You're trying to find some sort of joy in life when deep down you know that we're all fucked at the minute. Like, we're not in a good place. So it can be weirdly supportive in some way.
Like, let's just enjoy this ride together,
Pretty much. It's like, let's just try and do the best we can right now. I'm not going to look at the future at all, but we can try and bandy together and help each other out to one extent. But because we're in pain, that helping out can turn to backstabbing someone very, very fast. So it's an interesting kind of world. I did a video on it called Friendships in Hell, and because when I first went to that scene, I would watch what was happening, and I'm like, I ended up doing exactly the same shit, but I would watch it and go, this is so weird. Like, they'd have these friendship groups of all these people in a certain area who would all use together and all addicts and that kind of thing. And you could be best friends with someone, and then they would hurt each other. They'd steal money. They'd do something and be worst enemies. And they'd like rotate a group. Yeah. And they'd keep doing that to each other, and then they'd end up back together. And I'd just go, didn't you fucking hate that person 5 weeks ago? Like, yeah, but we're cool now. It's because we'd rather go back to these friendship groups that are fake to a certain extent rather than be alone, because that's like the greatest fear at all.
Misery loves company kind of thing.
Absolutely, because we're trying to escape from reality is what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
And it's better to have other people around than try and do that ourselves, because that's isolation's a big factor in addiction. So,
loneliness is definitely a big one.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I was lucky enough that when I wanted to get help, I had the support. Like, even my close friends who had shut out, my mum and dad who had shut out for so long, they were ready to support me and help me. So I tried a home-based detox with a counsellor and psychologist and all that kind of jazz. That didn't.
What did you do for this detox?
Basically, you got public and private rehab, right?
Yeah.
So you got, like, say, private rehab, which costs like 30, 40 grand. I didn't have that money. I didn't want to put that on mum and dad. Public rehab system was about a 6-month waiting list at the time. And it's still about that at the minute. And I'm like, I ain't got 6 months. So I was Googling, and a home-based detox is through a government company. So you get like a care and recovery worker, a nurse, doctor, and that kind of thing. But you do it from home.
Okay.
Which I was fine. I was clean for 12 days. I knew I could get clean. That's not the issue. People are like, as long as people can get clean, they'll be fine. No, because you're not addressing the reasons why they're using in the first place.
Right.
So
is this why people relapse?
Yeah, of course. It's not the getting off it, it's the staying off it. You know?
Yeah.
So I was clean for 12 days, but didn't address any of the deep reasons why. So then I relapsed for a week, and that week ended up being the most important of my life. I connected with an old acquaintance, Melissa, who's now my partner and business partner in this business. I went into her office not knowing what she did as a therapist. She had no idea I was a drug addict. I walked in I'd known her from a couple of years before, so I walked into her office 15 kilos lighter than when she'd seen me last. She admitted to being, Jesus Christ, what happened to this guy?
No shit, huh? Yeah.
I laid everything out, what had happened, and, I spent 3 hours in her office. I walked in an addict. I walked out knowing I never need to use drugs again. And we spoke about drugs for 2 minutes. The rest of it was addressing the traumas throughout my life, addressing the suppressed emotions, the things that I hadn't processed and dealt with, stuff from childhood. Also, my marriage breakup. My marriage breakup in 2014 was the catalyst for me to go from heavy recreational use to just full-blown addict kind of thing. So there was a lot around that. There was a lot around, we mentioned this before we turned the podcast on about that being positive. So that was kind of my go-to, because I never wanted to let anyone see me be vulnerable.
Right.
So externally, you'd meet me and go, "Oh, this guy's great. He's got his shit together." But I had all this baggage underneath that I kept pushing it away. Yeah, it's forced positivity. Everyone's like, "Geez, man, you must be crushed after your marriage breakup. You guys were in love and all this kind of stuff. You had a house together." I'm like, "No, I'm sweet. I'm over it. Yeah, it hurt, but I'm all good." I'm it's a week after. I'm not good.
Very
at all.
Very Aussie attitude. Yeah, she'll be right, mate.
Yeah, but it wasn't. It wasn't. So I addressed a lot of these baggage that I had, these suppressed emotions, and the person that I was trying to escape from pretty much my whole life, from using drugs or alcohol or other stuff, I didn't want to escape from anymore.
Right.
That was the moment. That was the moment where I realised drugs were no longer needed, because this whole mission or quest or journey to just do anything to not be with me, I'm like, hang on, I'm okay. I accept myself. I love myself for who I am.
And what was it specifically? Was there any particular emotions that you were holding on to?
Yeah, a lot of me, most of them, fear, anger, guilt. Yeah, fear and guilt were two of my main ones throughout my life. I always had anxiety a lot. And after doing this a lot of work on myself, I sort of had that realization that, shit, I've had anxiety my whole life. I just sort of hadn't labeled it as that and wasn't sure that that's what I was going through. I thought that it was a normal thing. Anger was a big one too, because I'm still learning this, how to actually express anger properly. Yeah. Because I'd shut down my anger at a very young age. So I would never allow myself to get angry. I kind of didn't know how. It sounds strange, but I didn't know how. So even throughout my marriage breakup, when I was rightly should have been angry, but I never got angry about it. Okay, so because I never expressed it or let it go, I just pushed it underneath, and I'm just holding it on my being.
You know, that cathartic release.
Correct.
Wait, what's your thought on anger, by the way? Because there's a way of releasing it and using it as an outlet, which is good, but then there's other ways where you're just exacerbating it. But sometimes it's better just to meditate. What's your? So I'm a bit confused on this.
Well, there's the actual physical energy or the emotion of anger. So anger, the healthy use or the reason why we have anger is to set boundaries.
Right.
So if someone's encroaching on me, or is stepping into me and having a go at me, or someone's saying something to my partner, anger is there for me to stand up and go, "Oi, fuck off."
Yeah, exactly.
Okay?
Stand your ground.
That's kind of the thing, right? So that's a healthy expression of it, and we're allowed to do that. I think you need to dissolve the energy of the anger. So this is what ducks do, right? This is what
I've seen it. Yeah,
you know what I'm going to say about the whole shaking thing. So ducks will come in, and whether it's a territory thing or they're two male ducks and one's having a go at the duck's missus or something, I don't know what happens, but they start fighting on the pond, and they're just pecking, they're going crazy, and all this energy's built up, and as they swim off, they'll both just shake, they flap their wings, they shake, it's like they're getting the energy out, and then they stop, and they're calm as they swim past each other. I'm all good, right?
We hold on to that shit.
Correct.
Some of us hold grudges for years, man. Yeah. Because this one person said this thing.
Yeah. Oh, I've done it.
And me too. And I've had those, those imaginary hypothetical arguments you have in your head. Well, and if he said this, I'll fucking say that. Yeah, I'll fucking show that.
Welcome to my brain. That's exactly right. And I still do it. I've got to catch myself. I'm like, dude, you're having a fucking made-up conversation in your head again, right?
Do you know how insane you sound right now? Yeah.
And then I'll end up contacting that person who I had the imaginary thing with, and they're like, hey, and they're fine. They're sort of, hey man, sorry about the other day, or they're fine. But in my head, I'm like, they're making this plan to get me, and they're going to do all this.
I'm just concocting this awesome statement just to fucking.
But it's just us concocting that ourselves. So
Yeah.
it's important to dissolve the energy. I mean, it's also important to find out where it's coming from as well. Yeah, because like anytime, if it's not that our boundaries being encroached, actually, which is like, it's like the fear thing. Like you got rational and irrational fear. So rational fear is like, I'm crossing the road out here and I've got my headphones in, and all of a sudden the car beeps, it's about to run me down. And my amygdala goes, fuck, because I haven't got time to think. My amygdala needs to tell my body, run, and I can get out of the way. That's fear, right? That's like 0.01 of the fear we experience in life. The rest of it's all made up shit that's constructed in our mind.
Yeah,
you know?
Unfortunately. Yeah.
So a lot of it's with the anger, trying to ask where that's coming from, yeah? Because like when we get emotional reactions, we think that it's us today that's having the reaction, but it's a younger version of us that held on to that emotion that's being triggered.
Right, so would you say it's a part of ourself that we haven't fully embodied yet?
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, a part of us that, a trauma that's a fragmented part of us when we're younger that isn't whole again. You know, it's like, so if we both drive through, where I'm now, Cheltenham, say we drive through Moorabbin.
Right.
Okay? And you love Moorabbin. You're like, fuck, Moorabbin's sick, right? But I've got an ex-girlfriend in Moorabbin who fucked me over. I don't really, but I'm making this up.
Okay.
But I've got this ex-girlfriend in Moorabbin and she fucked me over, and my association with Moorabbin, and I get real fucking angry when we drive through Moorabbin. It's not Moorabbin's fault.
Right.
Okay?
It's just a trigger.
It's right. It's right. So that part of me that got hurt by my ex, that's the one who's getting triggered, not me today with you driving through Moorabbin. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get
So
it.
it's important to, when the emotion comes up, try and ask it, hang on, where's this really coming from?
Right.
Yeah? So I tend to try and ask that before I then diffuse the energy of the emotion.
Okay. So you just ask yourself mentally, and then you just kind of free
I tune into the feeling.
Yeah.
So if I've got anger and I'm feeling it maybe in my arms or something, that's because it's a very physical sensation, yeah?
Yeah.
Thoughts, language
definitely.
of the mind, emotions, language of the body.
Right.
It's that feedback mechanism. So I locate the anger and just tune in. I'm like, what's really going on here, mate? What's really going on? Because I know it's not the external thing.
Right.
Because what happens, we don't ask that question because we just react to the world. So I'm like, fuck you, Moorabbin, I hate you, right? It's not Moorabbin's fault. So if I take it off Moorabbin and point the finger back on me, I can go, come on, mate, what's really going on here? And generally you'll get an answer. It mightn't be the deep answer that you want. You might be a bit surface level, but you'll get some sort of deeper answer.
Stepping stone, yeah.
Exactly, a stepping stone that you know what to work on. You know, and if I get that answer like, oh, your ex lived around the corner here, there was that time, blah, blah, blah. So now I know that I haven't actually moved on from that event because I'm still emotionally charged by it.
Yeah.
So if there's an event in your life and you think back to it, whatever the event is, and you start thinking about it, you take yourself back there, and after 10, 20, 30 seconds, an old emotion comes up, whether it's guilt, sadness, whatever it is, means you still haven't moved on from it. You're still carrying it around as baggage.
Okay.
So then I can get that answer, and then I can go into my body and actually, you can dissolve anger in a few ways. You can punch a punching bag and that kind of thing if you want.
And that's what I was going to say. Like, does punching a punching bag actually release the anger, or is it just exacerbating it? You know what I mean?
I know.
Or maybe it depends on the level of anger.
I think
sometimes it's better to punch a punching bag than to punch a wall or somebody else. But
yeah, of course.
You know.
But that's if you're doing that without trying to ask the question of where it comes from, then you're just stuck in the anger, and it might diffuse, it might not diffuse.
Right.
But you're still, if I diffuse the anger after I've got the learning, then I can go back and know what I have to work on, and whether I work on that through meditation or I'm seeing a therapist or I'm doing something, I know that I have to work on it. So you're taking ownership for what it is instead of just saying the world is making me angry. It's not, you know.
Yeah.
So then I just process an emotion by going into my body. Yeah. So if I'm feeling the anger, or say it's sadness in the heart, I'll actually just focus to get out of the head, focusing all the energy on that area, and I'll just breathe and start to turn it up. I'll try and make it more and more intense. Yeah. Because what happens, our natural reaction is when a negative emotion comes up, we're just like, oh, I'm going over here.
Yeah.
Let me go and work, or I'll have a drink, or I'll do something.
Drugs, porn, whatever.
Just a distraction.
Yeah.
So I'll try and do the opposite and go into it and feel the sadness. And if I need to cry, I fucking cry.
Yeah.
You know, and not distract myself from it.
So like mindfulness and really being aware of the sensations.
Yeah, it's emotional awareness.
Because a lot of people don't realize that awareness can be curative in and of itself.
Yeah. It's like, it can be. Can be. At the very least, it's a first step.
Yeah.
Because if I've got an awareness, that can be curative and it can alleviate things. But then if you're still got stuff, at least you can go from that awareness and go, okay, I'm still triggered by my ex in Moorabbin, but maybe now I can work on this. Whereas if you
Right.
don't have the awareness, you don't know what to do.
Yeah.
What do I work on?
Yeah,
I have
yeah,
an
yeah.
awareness around it.
Don't have a roadmap.
I'm just angry and I
Yeah.
don't understand why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's like because with anger, I know there's a lot of people, let's say in New Age movement, for example, that think that you shouldn't be angry, or it's a negative emotion that you should kind of suppress, or
Proper shit.
yeah, no shit.
Like to say any emotion we shouldn't have, like it's rubbish.
But that being said, because I know there are the normal emotions that are universal in all humans, no matter what culture you're from,
Yeah.
and then there are toxic emotions, which is holding on to emotion too much. So,
Yes.
like I don't know, holding on to anger can turn into resentment, or holding on to sadness can become depression. So,
Of course.
yeah. So depression and resentment and envy, I don't think these are something that we necessarily have to.
No, but to
experience,
say
but
that
yeah.
we shouldn't
to say it's
feel
wrong.
an emotion.
Yeah, of course not, no.
Because all that I talk about emotions in positive and negative because it's easy to understand, but none of our emotions are really positive or negative. It's all feedback.
Communication. Well, not to get. I know I just bagged the New Age movement, but I'm going to get a bit New Agey now, and quote Carl Jung, how he said that emotions are the language of the soul.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a guidance system. So it's like
Okay.
if I'm feeling sad, our normal reaction, especially as guys, is I shouldn't be feeling sad, and then
Harden up.
we'll get
Yeah.
angry that we're sad. Now we're stuck in an angry and sad loop, and we just go
It's a
down.
vicious cycle.
Instead of saying, oh, okay, I'm sad, what's this trying to tell me? Because it's that soul, trying to go, oi, you're a little bit off track here. Let's try and get back on track. Yeah, so it's like that guidance system. Yeah.
And how, like, because it's a guidance system, it's telling you that some things out of whack, but how do we get started when our whole fucking life is out of whack? Like diet, relationships, purpose, everything. And it's like, where do you start? And because
Yeah.
it can be very discouraging when you do try to get better and you change your diet, or you change your friend group, or you do something, you quit your destructive, addictive behavior pattern, but
Yeah.
then it just kind of comes back, and then you just go back into your same vicious cycle.
Well, you just can't quit. Like, it's just, I mean, what's the alternative? Like, oh, this is too hard, I'm going to give up. All right, well,
Yeah.
you're going to go be depressed forever. But I always tell people you need to find the people who've done what you want to do. So all you need is a sample size of one. If you have an addiction, you want to overcome an addiction, find someone that overcame an addiction. If you have depression, you want to overcome depression, find someone that overcame depression. You're in a dead-end job, you want to do something that you're passionate about, find someone who transitioned to doing something you're passionate about.
Right,
If you want to
yeah.
get fit, don't go to the guy who's been fit his whole life. Go to the guy who was fucking a fat piece of shit
Yeah, yeah.
and then became fit.
Yeah.
It's like, if you want to get financial advice, do you want to go to a guy who inherited millions of dollars? No. You want to go to the guy who was broke and
Yeah.
made millions of dollars. So
100%,
I'm like,
yeah.
find a sample size of one, find that one other bastard who's done what you want to do, and then speak to them and find out how they went about doing it.
So it's like resonating with someone, because like you'll listen to someone's story that's really inspirational, and it will just like touch your heart in a way where it's like,
Yeah.
I know, it gives you hope. It gives
That's
you a
it.
roadmap.
Hope,
Yeah,
hope,
which is
and hope.
important.
People are like, oh, hope doesn't do anything. Well, maybe not in itself, but it opens the door.
Yeah.
So you can start taking
Something.
some action. Because
Yeah.
the issue when you don't think something's possible, you get very, you have blinkers on.
Right.
Yeah, and you're like, and you're missing a lot of stuff. Yeah. As soon as you find that person and it resonates with you, like you said, you have hope and now it's possible. Your blinkers come off, and you start to take in more information around the world.
Right.
You might speak to someone you wouldn't have spoken to before. You start listening to a podcast you wouldn't have listened to before. You go to a talk you wouldn't have gone to before. Yeah. So it's when you've got that mindset that I'm fucked, it's not possible. It's really hard because people will come in and go, hey, I met this dude, you should talk to them. And you get blinkers, you're like, nah, I don't want to.
Yeah. Yeah, you meet those people all the time. It's like they like project their belief systems onto this is how the world is.
And we think we're a special case, right? I thought this as well. I'm like, I know there's a lot of other addicts in the world, but I'm a special type of addict.
Yeah, of course.
But I'm not.
Always.
I've
No,
got my own
no.
story, which is individual. I've got to address my own stuff, but there's other people who've beaten this bloody thing.
Right.
So it's
So your
possible.
personality-wise, on the surface level, it's different, but on the core, we still have. We're all human. We all have these universal emotions, like we just said
Exactly,
before, so-
exactly. We all experience pain, we experience struggle, and we have different ways of dealing with that. But it's the more suppressed stuff, this emotional baggage that you have, just everything becomes harder. That's why I'm like,
Yeah.
you got to do the deep work, because like you go to yoga class, that's good, that's awesome. You can start just to meditate by yourself, that's awesome. You can start going to a float tank, that's awesome. It's like maintenance stuff. Yeah, I love that stuff. But if you've got the heavy stuff underneath that you're not addressing,
this is a thing called spiritual bypassing, where the ego loves using spiritual practices to just strengthen itself, and it just uses it as a form of escapism or an identification, right?
Yeah.
Like, I do yoga, or I'm vegan, or I do this, I do that. Yeah, and they kind of use these modalities to avoid the real work.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Sometimes, and this happens a lot. Happened to me anyway.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, that's why people can, like, meditation's quite trendy to do at the minute. But I mean, if you've got a lot of suppressed stuff from the past, when you go to meditate and everything's quiet, it's not going to be a pleasant experience.
It's not fun.
There's I read recently Dr. Joe Dispenza's book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's a fucking brilliant book. I love it, right? There's a chapter in there that I reckon everyone in the world should read, right? It's called The Gap. And he talks about the gap, and it's like your two hands, and there's the gap of who you present to the world and the gap of who you really are. Okay. And a lot about life is trying to close that gap, because the more that gap is wider, the more we're going to get addicted to who we show to the world and neglect who we really are.
Right.
So we can go out to the world and, I can do this podcast, I can do a talk, and everyone's like, fuck, you're awesome, mate, cool. And that's who I'm presenting to the world. And I can be like, fuck, I'm so good. Then Joe's like, you want to find out who you really are? Go home when no one else is around, sit in a quiet room by yourself and wait.
Oof.
And then as soon as you start...
I just got chills even you saying that.
And as soon as you start to feel something, that's who you really are. So if you sit by yourself and you got fear come up or guilt come up, that's what you're holding underneath. And that's who you really are. So you've got this person you are on the surface, yet you've got this guilt and shame and all this other stuff underneath. You've got a gap there. And I think life's about trying to bridge that gap.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's when we can become addicted to the person we put out to the world, because it takes us away from that real self.
Yeah, because like some of these emotions are like so heavy and ridiculously dark, especially when you're running away from them your whole life. It just accumulates, right, into a much, much scarier beast. Like, like an emotion that I guess my challenge these days would be like despair. Like that's a fucking heavy one. That's a heavy one. And that's like a trigger. Like when I start to feel it, sometimes I'll do the whole thing. I'll sit with it, but then sometimes it's just so intense that I'll want to chuck on some stand-up comedy or smoke a joint or whatever. Yeah.
Like, so how have you gotten better at working through that emotion?
It's like, I wish I had this one answer, like it's this one thing, but it was more the little things every day. Like I actually took my physical health, like I put that as a priority even more than spirituality and philosophy, because sometimes this can leave you ungrounded, which is what happened to me. I was just too much in the clouds, too much in existential mode, thinking about the nature of reality and the impermanence, and it's heavy, man. I was like stuck in limbo almost, or the abyss. I don't know what it's called, but it's like I did whatever I can to just, it's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, just like from the bottom up, like started grounding myself, spending time with good people. That one's really important, having a support network.
Yep.
Because, think about this. Like, isolation is so scary that even in a prison, they punish you for putting you in a room by yourself, like away from all the murderers and the rape. That's the punishment. Yeah. Like, that's how much we don't like to be alone.
Yeah.
So
that's DNA level stuff. That's If we were in the hunter-gatherer times in tribes, if we were alone, that's bad. That spells death. Yeah. If you've been cast out by your tribe and you're alone, you're pretty much dead. Yeah. So that's where that fear comes from.
That's why we want to fit in and be normal, right? That
of course. We want to have that group around us, and to surround yourself with people that lift you up is just so important.
Yeah. That's definitely important.
And I think it's interesting because there's there's the spiritual stuff. I now believe that it's all spiritual.
That's that was one of my biggest aha moments. This is the divine reality, guys. Like, this is it. No, seriously, this is it.
And going to look after your body, your meat sack, is like very spiritual.
Yeah. Think about it. Like, let's say that you do believe in like the spiritual realms and entities and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. This reality is so fucking important that why are they all kind of going, like, why do they all want to come here?
Exactly.
Like, you just even think about it that way if you believe in that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and that's when, you get caught in trying to then disown this reality and trying to live up in the clouds in the 43rd dimension.
And that's one of the biggest traps which I fell into, and I've met so many people who go into this they believe that, they'll say, oh, this reality is an illusion, right?
Yeah.
Where it kind of, and it's like, yeah, like I get it because it's all in the mind, but then everything's in the mind fundamentally. But when you go, like when you just sweep this reality under the rug, like it doesn't matter, then it kind of removes your responsibility from doing something here, which is really important.
Yeah.
And maybe this reality doesn't matter, but I think you should act as if it does anyway.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
I mean, that can happen. It's the option's always there to go like live in an ashram and live the simple life, or go be a monk and just meditate every day for the rest of your life. That's an option.
Yeah.
It's
an option. Yeah.
Or you can live in reality and do your best.
But if that's your authentic self, then that's all good. But I think a lot of people don't. Like I've heard some scary shit. Like people, they'll have a DMT trip, for example. They'll meet aliens, right? And they'll be like, oh, I want to go back. And then I've heard stories of those entities telling them, no, if you kill yourself, you can come here.
Yeah, fucking hell.
Right?
Yeah, right.
It's fucking like dark shit, man. And they'll say like, this reality is an illusion, but no, the aliens that I saw, no, that's real. Like, then what's the distinction? You know what I mean? Like, it's all real to a certain extent.
The distinction is that this human experience involves suffering and pain.
First noble truth.
Yeah,
life
exactly.
is suffering. Yeah.
And I think that people get caught up in that there can be a world where there's no suffering and pain, and let's just try and get through this thing, so we can go there afterwards. Yeah, instead of like understanding
reaching nirvana.
Understanding that it's part of it. I mean, this whole universe, even if you look at it on an individual level, you sort of tend to grow after you go through some sort of challenge. Yeah. So it's like, oh, I'm going great, challenge, grow, challenge, grow, challenge, grow. And then we're constantly evolving as humans, as plants, as animals, the whole solar system. It's this constant challenge, growth. And then people have an idea that I want to live in this universe where there's no challenge.
Skip all the steps.
Yeah, but if there was no challenge, then the universe would stop.
Yeah.
There'd be no more evolution.
Stagnant energy literally equals death.
Yes. Yeah.
Because there's no such thing as stagnant energy.
Correct. It has to be moving. Yeah. So, that's where people can get caught up. And it's interesting, like when you start going down the spiritual path, I think I had this as well, you get a little bit excited. When it's a whole new...
It's very promising.
Oh my God, it's a whole new world of infinite love. And it's cool, it's amazing, right? But you got to ground yourself, or you find yourself going too much into the clouds and neglecting this amazing experience that we have here.
Exactly. And I think... And I don't blame people from... gravitating towards the more airy-fairy stuff, because life it's a lot of dark shit here,
it's
man.
Tough, man.
It's fucking hard, man.
But it's fucking beautiful at the same time.
Exactly. And that's the polarity of it. You can't have one without the other, which is, I think, why... Well, you tell me, actually, with drug addiction, why it can be so damaging is because the highs are so out of this fucking world, but the downfalls are like just as extreme, right?
Yeah, I mean, addiction... is tough. It can also be an absolute blessing.
Yes,
because we talk about the challenge and the growth. Addiction will take you to your depths.
It'll humble you.
It'll humble you.
Yeah.
Now, down in those depths, there's an opportunity to stay there, or there's an opportunity to get springboarded to growth that you've never had before. Okay, and this is I'm so firm in this belief that people have this idea that when I go through an addiction, a tough mental illness, I just want to go back to normal or just coping, because right now I'm really struggling.
Right, so functionality versus
functionality.
optimization.
No. The reason why you're going through this is so you can go to an entirely different level that's much greater than where you were before. Because when people say, I want to go back to who I was, I'm like, fuck that. Who you were led you to being a drug addict. Why do you want to go back to that? You're going through this for a reason.
It's a heavy realization, though.
It's heavy, and it's hard to get your head around when you're going through it.
Yeah.
But I just believe that so strongly. And the addiction is someone's attempt to solve a problem. Okay. That's why there's such highs and lows, Like people will look at an addiction and you can rationally and consciously look at it and tell everyone what's wrong with the addiction. We know what's wrong with the addiction.
Yeah, like consciously we know. Like, we know drugs...
People used to say to me, like, oh, yeah, don't you know what's in methamphetamine? Like, let me give you a list of ingredients. I'm like, I don't give a fuck. I'm still going to use it every single day, right?
Do you know what's in that hot dog you're eating?
Scare tactics don't work,
No, they don't. No.
Because you're not thinking like, oh, yeah, you're right. My health might take a hit in 20 years. Like, I'm trying to get through the next fucking one day, let alone 20 years.
Right.
So people know what's wrong with their addiction. The better question is, what's right about the addiction? This is something Gabor Mate talks about a lot. What's right?
He's
with
amazing,
the
by the way. Yeah. Check out the Tim Ferriss podcast with Gabor Mate. It's incredible.
Incredible guy. And even for a shorter one, just on YouTube, search Gabor Mate, what is addiction?
Gabor Mate.
Gabor or Gabor Mate.
Fucking Gabor Mate. Yeah, mate.
that clip's 3 minutes and it just sums up addiction just so perfectly. So, you got to ask someone what's right with the addiction. What is this solving here? What's it helping you escape from? Is it lessening your anxiety? Is it giving you more confidence? Are you feeling more comfortable in your own skin for a while? Because now you can ask, why do we have this anxiety? Why are we not comfortable in our own skin? Like, you got to ask these deeper questions. Like, the addiction's a symptom. It's not the problem. Yeah. It's like the branch of the tree. It's not the root. And this is where we run into a lot of troubles with treatment, because we see addiction as the actual core of the problem and try and treat that. But it's not the core of the problem. So if you address the real core of the problem, then the natural next step of that is the addiction will start to stop. That's why a lot of what we do here is we don't tell people they have to be clean to start coming in here. You don't have to be signed off and detoxed and that kind of stuff.
Right.
Let's address the actual underlying emotional baggage, the reasons why we're using in the first place, and then the person will stop naturally.
Wait, sorry to cut you off, but would you say that emotional trauma is the root of all addiction?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah. There's a saying that not every person who's been traumatized becomes an addict, but every single addict has in some way been traumatized. Whoa. Now, we think of trauma when you say that, and people be like, oh, I don't know about that, because we think trauma, sexual abuse, physical abuse, like...
It's just funny, I got a comment saying, like, what videos do you want me to talk about? And I put trauma, and someone says, like, oh, I don't have any trauma, can you do something else? And it's like, even that, like, we all have traumas, it's just different degrees, that's all.
Different degrees, and it's not just that thing that happened, it's also things that should have happened that didn't. So a trauma can be maybe one of our parents either wasn't there physically or they weren't emotionally there when we were younger, because they were too stressed. No one's fault, but they were too stressed. So then these certain emotional patterns of ours start to develop at a very young age. I could look back on my life, and people beat themselves up because I would look back on my life and go, I have no reason to be an addict. I had loving parents, a great brother, this stable family. Like, who am I to be a fucking addict? I had nothing go wrong.
Yeah.
Little do I know, I suffered severe anxiety when I was younger. I had a lot of events in my life that you might look back on and go, that's not trauma. To that 4-year-old, to that 7-year-old, it was trauma, because it completely changed the way they interacted with the world from that day forward.
And you hold on to that shit.
100%. Yeah. And trauma is not what happened to us, it's the result of what happened. And if I suppressed an emotion or an event was too painful for me and I had to fragment, that's a trauma. Okay? That can be sexual abuse. That's because I lost my mum at the shops for half an hour. Okay? That's how, so that's why I like to have a different perspective around trauma.
Yeah.
But the addict is always trying to escape from themselves. Okay. So why would someone not want to be with themselves? Because being with themselves, I'm in too much pain, I'm in too much distress. Yeah. And that's because we're holding on to all this stuff from our past.
Yeah.
So I'm yet to meet the person who hasn't got some sort of emotional trauma who's in addiction. I'm yet to meet that person. I'm open to meeting them. I'm open to it, but it hasn't happened as yet.
Send us an email.
And that's what the science says. I mean, have you heard of the ACE study, the Adverse Childhood Experiences?
No, I have not.
Really interesting one to look up. They did this study, thousands and thousands of people. The adverse childhood experience is certain things that happen to us when we're younger, when we're under the age of 18, when it comes to our family life. It's a questionnaire. They were looking at it in regards of, it actually started off with obese people. So they had these obese people, we'll put them through this study with these diets, and they would lose all this weight. It was this special diet where they actually wouldn't eat any food, but they'd be given all these vitamins and everything. So they're like, we guarantee you'll lose the weight. And a lot of people would lose the weight only to put it straight back on. And these doctors said, they actually listened to the patient and said, well, why is this? And it was always a deeper reason why someone had made themselves obese. A lot of it is to do with some sexual stuff when they were younger for women, and they're trying to protect themselves by making themselves unattractive, like all this deeper stuff, right?
Yeah.
So they would ask these patients, they'd find out there's always these certain things that had happened in childhood, these traumas. So they put together this study, which is 10 questions, and it's things like, below the age of 18, were any of your parents an alcoholic or drug addict? Has anyone in your family been in jail? Were you physically hit at all by your family at home? So there's 10 of them, right? So at the end, you get a score from 0 to 10. They then used this data, and when they were going through all the data, they would look at it versus the results in those people's life. Okay, so I haven't got the actual stats in front of me, but everything when it comes
did
to
you carry it around in your pocket?
No, I think I have it written over there somewhere.
Oh, do you?
But, okay. So let me check.
You actually do. Nice. Got notes and
Bear with
everything.
us for a second.
Play some waiting music. Dum, dum, dum. When was this study done?
They first did it, I'm going to say maybe 8 to 10 years ago. Then they did it again with even a much larger group.
Yeah.
And so, so you can look at the ACE scores go from 0 to 10. So as your score goes up for these adverse childhood experiences, your rates of addiction, your rates of depression, your rates of heart disease, your rates of autoimmune disease, even the physical things, the mental things, everything correlates with the higher ACE score that you have, right? So out of the 0 to 10, if you have 5 or more compared to the person who has 0, your chance of alcoholism is 510% greater. So that's 51 times greater to be an alcoholic, right? To be an IV drug user, your chances of being an IV drug user go up 920%. Okay, your chances of having adult depression go up 500%. Your chances of attempting suicide go up 1,680% by having an ACE score of 5 or more. Okay, so this stuff it's crazy. So like the more adverse childhood experiences someone have, the greater risk they are for all these mental, emotional, and physical stuff when they grow older, because this stuff matters. The stuff that happened to us matters. We carry that around. So that's an interesting study for people to look up. Like it's really
and how would you what would you recommend to people to overcome certain childhood traumas?
Find someone to work with. And it's got to be who you're comfortable with, who you resonate with. You can try and do this stuff on your own. There's a saying I heard recently. It was like, when going back into your psyche and stuff from the past, it's kind of like a bad neighborhood. You want to bring someone with you to keep you safe.
That's good. That's a good one. Yeah. Who said that?
I can't remember now. Whoever said it would have got it from someone else anyway. So I can't attribute it to anyone. So it's finding someone to sort of hold your hand, someone who's going to be compassionate and there to hold your hand through the process, because it's all these younger versions of us, these inner children still live in us. And like I said earlier, they're the ones getting triggered, you know, like if let me think of an example, you know, if it's like people might have a fear of an elevator, right? Because they had the doors shut on them when they were 5, you know, so there's a trauma there and they were holding their hand with their nan, or something bad happened in an elevator. Now they're 35, when they go to an elevator, they get all this fear coming up. It's not them having the fear at 35, it's the 5-year-old who still lives in them, who went through the trauma that's coming up. You know, you'll get into an argument, right? It could happen with your partner and that kind of thing, and one of you's getting say I'm getting real emotional. And then my partner's like, God, you stop acting like a child, right? No, I am the child in that moment,
The truth is hidden in plain sight, huh?
It is. Because that's the child who's brought up, you know? So,
well, that's blew my mind. Okay, I'm gonna use that next time.
It's just this stuff that, you know, you hear and you go through. But I mean, that's why we get people coming here, and some of them, they'll come in for an initial consult. They're like, oh yeah, I've got a problem. And some of them will even say to me like, I just like to get fucked up. I just like to party. That's what I said. Because I didn't know the real reasons why. I just like to get fucked up. The question is, why do I like to get fucked up? You know,
because it feels good, mate. What else?
And I use the example, like I smoked weed when I was a teenager. I never really liked it for whatever reason. I was more of a stimulant guy.
I was the opposite.
So I took my first ecstasy tablet when I was on my 20th birthday. And then I instantly thought, this is the most fucking amazing thing in the entire universe. Right? I want to do that every week from now on for the rest of my life. Right? And if I didn't have a job, I probably would have done it more.
I love because I empathise.
And so then I would have other people I'd go out with, friends, acquaintances, that kind of thing. They'd go out, have a good night out, have a couple of pills, be like, oh, that was fun, and then not think about it for a few months, then maybe do it again. And I'd look at them and go, what? How are you not wanting to do this all the time?
It's the mindset of an addict versus
it's the exact same drug, right? The same substance. So why did I have that reaction opposed to them? Because it was solving a greater problem for me, okay? Because I was so uncomfortable with myself, it was helping me get out of this pit to go to this place I'd never been before. Whereas the other friends in it might have just made them, you know, loved up and pumped up for a while, but their actual reality wasn't as painful, so it wasn't helping them escape something that was that painful. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So that they weren't craving that experience as much because their baseline was higher. And Sunday, there's a quote by Louis C.K. and he goes, "Drugs are so good they'll ruin your life." Pretty much. There's a lot of truth in that one.
And so I'd be like, man, I feel so good. I feel so connected to everyone. I just want to talk to everyone. I want to tell my friends how I actually feel. without ever asking myself, why don't I normally feel connected to other people? Why don't I normally feel like I can go and talk to someone? Why do I feel like I can't tell my actual friends how I really feel about them? But we don't ask ourselves that deeper question because we're just in the process of getting fucked up.
It's weird that, huh? Like you be partying, everyone would just get fucked up on drugs, alcohol, whatever it is, and everyone would just be overly friendly and opening their feelings and stuff like that. And then the next morning when you're all hungover, it's just kind of very, very surface level, and all that shit that you had these revelations of just the night before. It's like
the amount of times that it come to a Monday after a big weekend, and I'm like, I've made the best friend in the whole world. We're going to catch up every week from now on. Never heard from the cunt again. And I never contacted him.
You always get the number. Oh man, we should totally hang out more. Yeah, dude.
At one point I'd go through my phone and go, who the fuck are these people? I don't know their name.
Yeah, it's so funny, man.
Yeah. Like, so tell me, sorry.
No, go for it.
I was just going back to the despair piece, because like, this has always interested me, because I still have these periods as well.
I'm an open book, man, so if you can help me work through this, it'll be great.
I just... How often are they coming up, and kind of how long are they lasting for?
Well, these days, it's not that much. That's why I'm in a much better place. Like I'm in a better place now than I have been in my whole life. Mm-hmm. But that being said, when I do have, I know my capacity to feel pain is also much deeper though. So when they do come, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So with the whole despair thing, so I had people at home have probably heard this a million times, so I'm not going to go into it here, but let's say I had a very horrific trip and had an experience of the absolute, which my ego wasn't prepared for, all the darkness, the collective suffering of humanity. And then ever since then, for months afterwards, I'd get these existential waves every day of existential despair, grief, that was a big one, hopelessness, aloneness, like this is fucked. I'm in an infinite loop. I felt like this is like a satanic matrix, pretty much, and life is just a joke. Like, it was really fucking dark shit. And I know the thing is, like, I used my mind to rationalize, like, no, you're just being silly and blah, blah, blah. But the emotion was so fucking strong because my ego completely got fractured. It was too much. And the emotion overrides those thoughts. It's stronger. And to quote Carl Jung again, I've said this a couple of times, but he said, beware of unearned wisdom. And that's the dangers of having heavy psychedelic trips without building the foundation first, right? It's like a anorexic skinny dude lifting 200 kilos versus Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yeah. It's the same weight, but someone's worked up for it. You know what I mean? So so I had those waves, and I had therapy was very important, that's like so fucking important. And so maybe a few months. It was just like horrific, and I started smoking weed every day. And even to this day, I'm still smoking weed because that's my emotional trigger. It's the despair and hopelessness. So it won't be a lot. Like, I don't get it a lot now, but it's still like maybe in a span of a week, I might get like 2-3 short waves. Okay, short waves. So it's like it's nowhere near as intense.
Less frequent, less duration.
Way less. Yeah, before it was like a few times a day.
Yeah, gotcha.
Right, and whenever I was in a normal state, that's when I'd be like, all right, better take advantage, pump out videos, do work, or do something, because I couldn't. It was too debilitating. Yeah,
it's interesting. Yeah, I've had like, mine's kind of a depression kind of thing. I've
what kind of a depression?
Like, just that deep, what's the point kind of thing.
Right.
And it's been a process of doing the work around that, but it's the same kind of thing. It's gotten less frequent and less duration. So I could not have it for months, but then I'd have it for a week.
That's pretty okay.
Yeah, and then that week you'd be fucked up, just really bad. You know? But now it's like less, and now, but I'm down till I can sort of get rid of it in about a day and a half.
What do you do to get rid of it?
Once again, it's going and trying to find out where it's coming from.
Right.
So I'll try and find that out. One of the big things as well for me is not judging myself for being that way. Yeah. So whenever, because I had this thing where I got to keep going and keep moving and all that kind of jazz. Yeah. So whenever I'd get in that state, I'd kind of fight it.
Yeah.
And like, I shouldn't be feeling this way.
Right.
And unfortunately, that just prolongs it. That's why it would last a week. Because I kept trying to like, no, I'm fine. I'm pulling myself out of it. Stop being a bitch. That kind of thing. And not loving myself in that place. Yeah. Because I found that's one of the hardest things to do, is love myself when I'm struggling.
Love, yeah.
It's like, or accept yourself, yeah? So
Right.
people
There's
get
that
funny.
new age stuff
People
again,
get
man.
funny when I'm like, I love myself, but I do love myself. But if
it's
you don't
important.
like the word love, just say, I completely accept myself.
Right.
And we accept ourselves when we're up and about, we're happy, we're with our friends, we're talking. And then when those moments come where we're feeling really down and depressed, or we have that despair, or we're lonely, we don't accept ourselves there.
No, we don't.
Yeah. So that
You gotta accept
process
the
of
whole
saying,
picture.
I'm feeling this right now, but I still fucking love myself. And I need that self-love or that self-acceptance now more than ever. Because it's easy to love ourselves when we're happy and put on that positive face, but we're neglecting that shadow side. Yeah, so I found that to be one of the big things to really lessen the duration of those periods.
Do you find that grounding yourself helps, like really getting into your body? Because I find like with the existential stuff, it's really like you too out there.
Yeah, true. I'm generally trying to keep myself pretty in my body, to be honest, like normally. But I definitely will keep that up in those periods as well. Like I'm someone, I need to move my body every day. I need to stretch. I need to lift weights, and I'm pretty grounded to the earth realm.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good realm, man.
It's sick.
It's like the best video game you'll ever play in your life.
Absolutely.
Right? It's better than HD.
Yeah.
The graphics are fucking amazing.
The graphics are good.
Yeah, the graphics are good.
Unless you go blind or something and they just shut down.
true.
That's a different challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, but then you overcompensate with other senses, so
Yeah.
it's always balancing out.
Yeah. That's interesting. When I've done juice fasts before, so I'll go like a week or so without eating and just having juice.
Okay.
Like I try and do it once a year because it's good to clear the digestive
All juice?
system out. Yeah, just mainly vegetable juices. So I don't want too much fructose with the juices. So last time I got a mate who runs an organic juice company, so I just got him to deliver them.
Really?
Yeah, like a week's worth.
Oh, man, that's awesome.
It's so interesting, even just doing that and not eating for a week, your other senses, especially the smell, fucking insane. I could smell a steak from a mile off when I'm on a juice fast.
And how's like your emotional state when you go through like these long fasts? Like, are you more sensitive to life? Like, I would imagine it's somewhat like that.
I haven't had that yet. I know people that have had that.
Right.
Yeah, because it's like, because we use food as a big distraction.
Yeah.
So as soon as I start to feel emotional, I'll go eat.
Okay.
You know, I'm going to go out for dinner. I'm going to have my ice cream, or even if it's healthy food, because that food is a kind of distraction. Then when you're just having the juices, and especially on the weekend and you're not working, it's like, maybe I'll go out for, oh no, I can't. I'll go into think, oh no, I can't.
Right.
This is like
you give your body the chance to detox.
Yeah. I've just got to sit with it. And it's funny, actually, you mentioned that. One of the last periods of that, of the depression I had, which lasted for a week, and maybe this is what was a real thing that helped me. I decided that it started, I'm like, fuck, I hope this might go for 3 days, it might go for 7 days. I'm not going to use a coping mechanism at all, right?
Just feel it.
I'm just going to feel it. And it was fun, right? And I made this decision. I wanted to so much. I wanted to, like on the Friday night, just have a couple of beers, just something. Like
something,
just something. And I'm like, I'm going to go out, catch up with my friends. I'm like, no, I'm just going to fucking sit with this. Yeah, and I'm like, and I did it, and it was brutal. But that being said, I've just had an awareness now that it hasn't been as long since then when I've had these periods.
Interesting. It's funny because I had the same kind of deal, like during, after that bad trip, I went to Southeast Asia for 2 months, went to Thailand, and I went like complete break. I'm like, no alcohol, no weed, like no drugs, like not even, I guess coffee every once in a while, but it's a different magnitude. Yeah, I know. Let's
not be silly here.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, because I used to say like, but everything's a drug, and it's like, I get it, but you got to draw a line somewhere. Otherwise, you can group vitamin C and heroin in the same in the same bag. Yeah. It's a little bit different there. I went to Thailand. I remember I had to just feel it. I knew I had to just face myself, and no matter what I did, it was just like so depressed. I remember getting a massage. I'm like, life is pointless. Life is pain. It's like I'm like in Thailand, like I should be like over the moon happy, but I'm just like super super depressed. But it definitely did help because I did a couple days of silent meditation retreat and getting into Buddhism. I had like Muay Thai training.
Nice.
Rode the motorbike around mountains, visited caves, like all by myself as well, like for a full month.
That's a big thing as well, by yourself.
By myself, Like it was obviously it would have been way more fun with a friend, but sometimes you just need to sit with it.
And
it sucks.
It's the most painful thing.
Yeah.
And every half an hour, your mind will go, oh, no, but do that. Go have a drink.
Like
do
I wanted
have
weed.
a smoke.
I wanted weed so bad.
Yeah.
I think the thing was like, but I don't know. You can kind of get put in prison here for that.
Yeah, it was enough of a deterrent there.
So I don't think my face will go too well over there. But yeah, man. Actually, I want to ask you, with the clients that you get over here, what has been like a consistent pattern that you've noticed in terms of the root, or maybe a specific emotion that people feel, and what is the most addictive drug that you've experienced with, like with people coming in? Like, is it usually like ice addicts or just everything?
When it comes to our addiction clients, it's probably the main drug is ice, and people will say like, "Well, that's the most destructive drug." I'm like, no, that's what's most available at the minute.
Right. Okay.
People will find what's available to solve this emotional pain problem. In the 90s, it was heroin. Everyone's like, yeah, heroin's, that epidemic, because that was the most available at the time. Okay. Yeah. So it's like, people think that if we all of a sudden clicked our fingers and every bit of ice disappeared from our streets, the whole country, it's all gone.
Prescription medication, they kill more than illegal drugs.
People think that if we got rid of that drug, then everyone who was using the drugs is going to go and live a rosy, happy life. Not the case. No. They'll find something else to try and numb that emotional pain and try and help that situation.
Yeah.
When it comes to patterns, when it comes to emotional stuff, pretty much everyone that walks through our door, whether it's an addiction or mental illness, whether it's what they're presenting for specifically or just it's underneath, anxiety's everywhere.
Anxiety, yeah.
Everybody has anxiety that's come in these doors to a certain degree. So that's been sort of the one common thing. Apart from that, people's guilt and shame from their past.
Guilt and shame. And shame is like the lowest emotion.
When it comes to it's the heaviest. Yeah, it's the heaviest, lowest vibrational, heaviest emotion. Right. You've got shame and then guilt. So
according to Dr. David Hawkins.
Yeah, and they've got people like, well, what's the difference between shame and guilt? Well, guilt says what I did in the past was bad. Shame says I'm a bad person because of what I've done in the past. Yeah, so that shame's like, because of what I've done in my life, I'm a bad person. And it's heavy, and people have that guilt and shame in abundance that we have through these doors. And it's funny because people will, especially with the addict, people will look at the addict and go, oh, they're so selfish, they don't give a fuck, look at them, they're doing this, they're stealing, and we have this perception that they don't care. But I promise you, every single one that's come through these doors is riddled with guilt and shame. And if they come off as not caring or selfish, it's simply because it's so painful for them that they've put up these walls so they don't have to feel it.
Yeah, and I think that like the social stigma makes it so much worse. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's funny how like you get empathy. Like if you're an alcoholic, even the wording, like the language is everything. It controls our perception.
Yeah.
Even the word alcoholic, but then if you do another drug, you're a junkie.
Yeah.
Isn't it funny?
Yeah, and that's when it comes back to the most. I can't say what drugs are most addictive, right? Like, addiction's funny, man, because addiction can be ice, heroin, alcohol, can be gambling, can be shopping, can be sex, can be video games, can be
meditation.
Porn, can be meditation, can be food, can be work.
Yeah,
there's so many different vices out there that people use, and we mix them up a lot as well. We tend to think of something as an addict or not, has depression or not. Has anxiety or not, but we're all on this spectrum. We're somewhere along that spectrum,
of course,
and we've all got our little coping mechanisms.
Okay.
Now, are they destructive to our life or not? And if they are, then you probably want to address them. But alcohol's the most destructive drug in our society. Like the stats say that. Yeah. When it comes to harm to self, harm to others, alcohol's clearly the most harmful drug.
Yeah.
It doesn't get the same kind of press as things like ice do, because that's the hot topic at the minute, and people will watch the news or watch something on bloody Today Tonight and they'll be like, my son's tried ice and now he's going to stab 3 people and rob a bank, right? Because that's what they think. And so we have parents calling all the time, freaking out. Okay, well, let's calm down and actually look at this situation rationally and try and work out what's really going on here.
Right.
Because the thing is, the majority of people who use a drug are fine. They don't develop a dependence or addiction.
No.
It's like 85% don't. Yeah?
It's true.
So 15%, it's between 10 and 20%, so it's roughly about 15 of people who with any type of drug will develop a dependence or addiction.
Okay.
And you might think, well, it's different with marijuana, with ice. It's not. The numbers are the same. Yeah? So people need to know that 85% of people who try ice or heroin won't develop a dependence or addiction.
And actually, it's different for everyone. Like one person can be more addictive to a substance that isn't quote unquote harmful,
Yeah.
and then be fine with one that's supposed to be like the most addictive thing ever. And I'm a testament to that.
Yeah.
I've tried pretty much all drugs except for like a heroin, I suppose.
Yeah.
And I can say without a doubt, marijuana has been the most destructive drug in my life.
Yeah.
And this will piss a lot of oversensitive stoners, but it's like, no, but I'm not saying that the weed is destructive. I'm saying my unique chemistry with weed was just, ugh.
And that's just so.
And I did at a young age as well.
Yeah.
Like I started smoking when I
and
was
you
12.
explained that perfectly, and like, because obviously, to society, weed's fine. America are proving that they've legalized weed.
Right.
There's so
Well,
much.
I don't know. There was a thing here. They said that weed is a gateway drug to ice or something like that.
I read that the other day, and I was about to cut the bloody clipping out of the newspaper at the cafe and do a video on it.
Me too. I was going to make a
Like,
video.
for Christ's sake, but at the same time, it is an issue for this small selection of people.
It
I did a
is.
video
It
sort of
is.
saying this recently, and I had a bunch of comments from these bloody stoners who were like, "Oh, you can't actually put weed into drug of dependence because it's not. It's so fucking stupid to say that." So come and tell that to the people that we have to treat who it's ruined their lives because they can't stop doing it. It's like, it's a stupid thing to say.
They just haven't seen it.
No, they haven't seen it, and they want to justify their own use.
Yeah.
Which may be fine. I'm not there
And
to judge
this,
them.
this is something that I like to push buttons with. It's because I was one for so long, so I know the psychological mechanisms that go behind.
You're in the perfect position to know that.
But I do it with love. Like I make fun of just to make you aware.
It all comes from love.
It all comes from love, yeah.
But,
and a bit of fun for myself.
So we have this idea of society, and it's shifting that it's the actual drug. Well, it's ice is a problem. That's the drug. It's like,
Right.
well, hang on, no.
Right.
What makes the 15% susceptible to addiction?
Yeah.
That's the better question.
Yes, of course, because it's like some people are just more prone to having those addictive tendencies.
And we don't. The news don't report on the 85% of people who are using heroin or using ice who are living a normal life and are living in society.
Of course not. No way. Yeah.
And
And new drugs are being made every day as well.
Oh, the synthetic rubbish. Yeah, man. Like,
And we don't know like the research behind it, because with every drug, like I'm making a video about it right now actually, but with every drug there's always a price for it. Like, like Tim Ferriss says, there's no such thing as a biological free lunch. And you have people on two sides of the spectrum. One's that's like super against, like, drugs are evil and want the war on drugs to continue. Then you've got the people on the other side of the spectrum which think that their drug of choice somehow can escape all the negative side effects and is only positive, This happens with anything.
Yeah, well, it's a skewed perception, But along, like, whilst we just said that you can obviously run into issues with marijuana, that being said, when it has been legalized, it's actually not.
Most people don't.
Most people don't, right?
And this doesn't mean that I want weed to be illegal. That's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
Of course I want it to be
Because
illegal.
what that comes into the synthetic stuff again, because it has been pushed down. Now you have this synthetic marijuana shit.
Oh man, they finally
I-
banned it. I think like over a year ago now.
Yeah, the issue is
I've seen dark shit from that.
Yeah, well, I know.
Like people,
I personally
people have
know
done
4
it.
people last year who ended up in comas from it. It's
Yeah, I've known people who've gone like homeless and started stealing from their family just to.
It's horrendous, and like, I'm not sure where the banning of it is now, but the problem was because it was this synthetic stuff and it was sold at sex shops and whatnot.
Right.
That it's like what they used to do with ingredients in pre-workouts for gyms.
Yeah,
That they would make one of these ingredients, they would ban it.
Okay.
Right. It takes a 3-month process to ban it. Meanwhile, the labs have 20 or 30 different derivatives of that which cause similar effects, and they just sell that. Then it takes another 3 months to get that banned. Next one, and so they just keep going. To
Except
the next
with
thing, the
those,
next
we
thing.
have no idea what.
And that's why someone would
what the
smoke
effects are.
this one that got banned, and then a new strain comes in, and they use that, and it just goes crazy, end up in a coma.
It may have side effects. I heard it somewhere before, and I was just thinking like. Even the whole notion of a side effect is ridiculous. It doesn't exist. Those are just part of the effects.
Yes, I heard that recently as well. Yeah, it's like you should just not, now when it comes to medications and that, stop saying side effect, just effects.
Yeah.
So like an antidepressant, instead of a side effect, an effect is
It's part of
excessive sweating, put on weight, possible suicidal thoughts.
Yeah.
Stop saying side effect.
You can't have gain without loss, and some people think that but this drug can escape this law of polarity. It's like no, there's always going to be something. It's more. You got to ask yourself: are the negatives going to be worth the short-term positive? And for sometimes it is. Like drugs can be a saving grace.
Yeah.
Sometimes, and it can even treat drug addiction, which I know to the average person sounds ridiculous, but it can.
And that's
in
like
the right
you said,
setting.
you got to weigh that stuff up.
Yeah. But as long as you're being honest with yourself and really seeing both the good and the bad. And if you can't see the bad, you're skewed. And if you can't see the good, you're also skewed.
Which is hard. It's hard to be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
If you're in that's the kind of thing you can be honest with yourself, but then if you do have a problem, you're probably not going to be honest with yourself. No. I could justify anything to myself back in the day. Like I used to, before I became a everyday user, I was starting to go off the rails a bit, and I was using like every weekend. So it'd be like fucking 4 or 5 day benders, recover for 3 or 4 days, another bender, and each time I'd be like, no more, like last time. And then I'd be going to catch up for some drinks like on a Friday night, and just when I'm about to leave, I'm like, I'll just get a point. I'm just going to get 1 point. It's going to cost me $50. I'm going to get my point. I'm just going to make me excited for the night. I'm going to have a few drinks.
Like, good on you,
it's going to be fun. Even though every single time before that, 1 point would turn into about $2,000 worth of drugs and 6 days awake.
Oh.
And I would just do it every time.
Wow.
But I would always be able to justify that it'd be just this 1 point.
This time's different.
I'm mature now.
Yeah.
No, you're not, dickhead.
Yeah. Well, it's hard, man. Like, because some people don't have that self-control, and this is something that I've had to get over. Like, let's say alcohol, for example. You know, as soon as I started drinking alcohol, it was always to get fucked up. Like, there was no have 1 or 2 or get tipsy. It's like either, go hard or go home. You get fucked up or don't waste your time kind of thing. And I couldn't even understand people who could just have 1 beer or 1 glass of wine and just stop. But now it's like I haven't been drunk in years now, literally, and I couldn't even imagine doing so.
Yeah,
like
so
I can have like a glass of red wine,
enjoy
be fine with it.
Yeah, it's the intention around it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I find one of the biggest wins that we have here that I love is when someone comes in and their issue is alcoholism, or they've got an alcohol problem, and instead of, because a lot of people, AA and that works for some people, but that whole abstinent thing, people are resistant to a lot, because if you tell the brain like you're never going to do this thing ever again, your brain's like, fuck you. So
it's happened with the Garden of Eden. Don't eat that apple.
Yeah. So one of our greatest wins, when you can clear up a lot of this stuff from the past and the reasons why we drink, then the intention starts to change now. So instead of I'm drinking to escape from me, I need to obliterate myself. Now I can have 1 or 2 glasses of wine when I'm out for dinner with my friends, and I don't feel the need to drink anymore. So it's a completely different energy behind it. So that's one of the greatest wins, when we can take an alcoholic from that to that. That's amazing to me.
So would you recommend people going cold turkey or like cutting down their,
everyone's
their substance?
Different. Yeah, everyone's different for that. Like cold turkey,
because the relapse can be more intense. Can be for some people. Like if you just go cold turkey from whatever drug you're into.
Yeah, it depends the drug as well. It depends. Like it's like alcohol. That's why when it comes to actual detoxing, alcohol is the most dangerous drug to detox off. It's the only drug you can actually die from. You can have seizures if you're a full-blown alcoholic. So if someone's an alcoholic and they want to stop, they need to just get some medical supervision.
Because isn't that what a hangover is? It's like alcohol withdrawal.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. It's an acute withdrawal. When it comes to other stuff, I mean, heroin can be rough, a lot of body aches and flu-like symptoms, but you're not going to die. It's whatever the effect of the drug is, it's kind of the opposite, the withdrawal. So heroin obviously masks pain, makes you constipated, makes you relaxed. So when you stop, you're going to have a lot of aches and pains in your body. You're going to be shitting diarrhea, and you're going to be really anxious. So central nervous system stimulant. I'm fucking awake. I'm alert. All of a sudden, I'm going to sleep for 3 or 4 days. I'm going to be super depressed in those 3 or 4 days as well.
Think of MDMA. It's like the greatest high ever that I've experienced on a drug anyway.
Then when you calm down,
it's rough.
Yeah, it's always
actually
the opposite.
Ice was the worst calm down, if I'm being fair. But
that's the worst I've had.
Yeah.
It's not fun at all.
Yeah.
It's just that dopamine release, so dopamine is our reward neurochemical, neurotransmitter. So ice releases 10 times more than the next drug, which is cocaine. So because you're taking in so much external dopamine, like with anything, your brain, like if someone is a bodybuilder and takes testosterone, their nuts stop producing testosterone because they're getting it externally. The nuts are like, I don't need to produce it. So same with dopamine, your brain's like, I don't need to produce dopamine because I'm getting so fucking much of it. So then when we stop, our brain is just so low in dopamine. That's why we have no motivation to do anything. We won't get out of bed.
Right? Yeah.
But then people worry in that time, but I'm like, don't worry, because after 4 or 5 days, or even less than that, that's when you start to feel better. But your brain goes, oh, I'm not getting all this massive hits of external dopamine. I need to start producing it again, and the brain will start producing it again, and will start to feel better. That's why that week after an addict stops using ice, they'll just feel terribly depressed because there's no dopamine in that brain. Yeah, but it's good for people to know that it won't last.
What would you recommend for someone who just to kind of get through the withdrawal phase?
Yeah, you got to have support there. So someone who can maybe just come and check on you and that kind of thing. Lots of comfort food. Yeah, anything that will help, maybe try and help your brain produce a bit of dopamine, and comfort food will. I remember I had my mum would bring around like big trays of lasagna and tuna mornay, which is like my favourite things when I was growing up. And because I was on ice and I hadn't eaten much kind of before, and she'd like come around the next day to check on me, and I'm like, can you make more of that lasagna? I brought around a fucking tray of the stuff.
That's
I'm like,
awesome.
I'm eating.
And
apart from that, lots of water, like just try and Netflix, watch something.
Right.
You're just going to feel tired, and then sometimes when you're not sleeping, you'll feel tired, but you won't want to do anything. You'll just feel depressed. So, but knowing that, you'll be fine. The brain will start producing dopamine again. It's good because we get stuck in this phase of I'm going to feel like this forever.
Right.
When it's not. It's not the case.
Everything passes.
Our body is so fucking resilient. Like,
the human body's
one thing I've learned is how bloody resilient this thing is. Because we can beat the shit out of it, and it will generally come back.
You just look at history and the kind of shit that humans have gone through. Yeah. Right. And they just come out stronger.
It's a resilient machine.
That's like Dragon Ball Z. Every time someone gets defeated, they actually come out stronger.
So I just went Super Saiyan after.
Yeah, exactly. You need some shit to happen, and it's like, fuck.
I probably watched that when I was in my final, detox and that kind of thing. Just something that I love,
and that's when you got to like honor the stage that you're at. You can't go from like drug addict, shit diet, horrible health to like super pure spiritual vegan, well, whatever it is, like you need to go through like these steps.
Of course. No, it can be hard to tell everyone to change up every single thing in their life. I mean, it's too much. It's just got to look at what's the main issue at the minute, because we get a lot of people as well who are using drugs, smoke cigarettes as well. And it's like, cool, we'll tackle the cigarettes. This is your main problem at the minute.
Because the cigarettes isn't going to be as bad as fucking ice, Actually, it's something that do you follow Jordan Peterson? Yeah. Like he said, just clean your room. It's like so simple and like, all right, mate, fucking so stupid, but just that one little thing of like starting your day and making your bed or something like that. It's just the little things that we overlook because we want to do the grandiose acts of transformation, which isn't sustainable.
I think he talks about that responsibility piece and picking up a load and carrying it. And that load doesn't have to be the whole world at the start, but pick up some sort of load and take some sort of responsibility, because every time you do that, you're going to build some self-esteem and some confidence. Because another thing with addiction is that we want to run away from any responsibility that we have. So no, that's an important message, and
finding that meaning and purpose.
And that meaning and purpose can be, my meaning and purpose just after I got clean the last time was, I'm going to walk my dog again each morning down the shops and get some fresh fruit, fresh air, start small, some sun and that kind of thing. I'm going to go visit my family.
Another thing, sunlight, we give kids like antidepressants before we like go step outside for 20 minutes, let the sun hit your, like, even do it naked if you can. It's even better.
The neighbours would be too happy, but
fucking mate.
That's I've found that to be beneficial. I walk my dog every morning just as that sun's coming up and you feel that sunlight, and it feels fantastic.
Yeah, man. I love walking my dog. That's something that really helped. Because like dogs, I think there was a study where they said that dogs, like owning a dog will add 10 years to your life. Something like that. And I'm like, I totally believe that. It wasn't even like, what? It's like, oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, well, one thing, and Disco, my dog, he was with me through the whole thing, like I took him out.
He's seen some shit.
He lived in the drug house with me. We used to do deals. I'd walk him in the bloody streets in the middle of the night, and he saw the whole lot. And he's just... my little companion. He's a fucking Rottweiler. He's big, but he's like, they're amazing how much they can pick up on your stuff. Dogs. Like when I went through the marriage breakup early, he'd come up and he's boisterous, wanting to play, and for a few weeks he'd just come up and just put his head on my leg and just look at me and like, and I'm trying to bloody neglect my negative emotions, and he's like, "Come on, Dad, you got to address this stuff." But it's funny, like makes me laugh at least once a day, normally more. And then I'm like, you can't put a price on that. And that's probably where the extra years of life come from, being able to make someone smile every day.
Because their frequency is like, if you're a good owner anyway, they're like just always happy, or, you know.
And just always present.
Yeah, pretty much.
When you get caught up in the past or future, I just watch him for 10 minutes. I'm like, he doesn't give a fuck about the future
awesome.
or past. He's like, what's happening now? What are we doing?
Look at this stick I found. Isn't it great? It's like just simple things like that.
Then you're like, yeah, it is actually great, but I wasn't paying attention to it.
Yeah, exactly. They're great. They're spiritual teachers, definitely.
They are, man.
I guess we'll just leave it at that, man. I think it was really good talk. Appreciate you coming on.
Pleasure as always. What have we done?
Deep shit.
Hour and a bit.
Yeah. 20. Do you want to let people know at home where to reach you, connect you, talk about
absolutely. So the Melbourne Centre of Healing.com.au is the website. That's probably the best place to get in contact. You can shoot me an email through there, or
free consultation.
Free consult. Melbourne Centre of Healing on Facebook, Instagram, all that, YouTube. We're most active probably on Facebook. Well, I've got a shitload of videos on YouTube. No one really watches them, but I keep putting them out there. So a lot of content on there, and
I can share a few tips.
Yeah, well, if anyone has any questions or anything, just comment on the video. I'm happy to interact with people and
because you had a couple people reach out to you after our first unofficial podcast.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And I love that people reaching out, and even they can be reaching out for the first time, and that's what I'm like, fucking hell, that's so good.
Takes courage, man.
That's what people come through these doors, and they've got that physiology of guilt and shame because they're coming in for a mental illness or addiction. I'm like, dude, I respect you so fucking much because I know how much guts it takes to be able to come through these doors and even be open to getting help, because that's the hardest thing.
Yeah, and you're just like, man, just love yourself, man. It's all right. You're a human. We're all fucked up, man. I like to say we're all divine pieces of shit.
Pretty much. We're imperfect strugglers on a journey. We're all just trying to work it out.
Part of the duality. Yeah. All right, guys. Peace out.
Peace.